Oh, hello. Fancy seeing you here on a Monday morning, but glad you could join us. Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Each week we will be interviewing local, regional, and national business leaders to give you an inside peek into how they lead their businesses to success in an ever-competitive business climate. So pour yourself a hot cup and enjoy the show.
Welcome to another special episode of Monday Morning Coffee. This week, I am pleased to announce that we have our best friend on the podcast, Nicholas Renard, who is the founder and owner of an award-winning architecture firm in Jacksonville, Florida called Renard Architecture. Over his career, he has been recognized with design awards by the American Institute of Architects, Jacksonville Historical Society, and competition juries. He's also taken the leap, just like Alex and I have, as becoming a builder architect. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hello, best friends.
How you doing today in Florida?
It's Dig Architecture, not Renard.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dig Architecture. We got to update your website, bro. I actually pulled this from your website, and I was like, yeah, why does it say Renard?
That's why we were having the conversation the other day about Wix and Squarespace and what you all use.
Well, I apologize. All the listeners know now that I screwed up, but that's okay. So yeah, Dig Architecture. I was totally confused by that. I was like, well, does he use it as a pseudonym, or, you know, some people just use I don't know, they go by like my wife. Her real name is Cayko, her last name is, and then she still goes by Marilyn Ackerman for Longmont Real Estate. So my bad.
And Ackerman sounds a little bit better than Psycho as a real estate agent.
Yeah, I could not get her to buy into. I told her it was a really good icebreaker because you introduce yourself, and she was like, nope, not for me.
No.
Not doing it. But let's start from the top. You and I have talked before, obviously, quite a bit, especially at the last AI conference. But I've never asked you, what drew you to architecture, especially at the University of Cincinnati?
So what drew me to architecture was when I was in high school, I was really into art class and whatnot, and taken all the drawing classes I could take, and I was like, just let me take that one again. I don't want credit for it. I just need something to do. And they said, my guidance counselor said, no, we can't let you do that, but there's this engineering graphics class. You can take that, and plus you're really good at math. Maybe you could focus on becoming an architect someday, because they make lots of money. And I was like, sweet, that sounds awesome. I'd like to make lots of money.
Yeah.
And then grew up a Buckeye, and my dad played there back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of bred in me, and went to Ohio State to kind of tour their architecture school, and they spent an hour trying to convince me to be an engineer. And I went to Cincinnati, and they're like, we're one of the top programs in the nation right now. You could come here, you can't, you don't want to, we don't really care. We'll be fine without you. And I was like, well, that's the school I want to go to. So I went to Cincinnati, and the first day of class, one of the professors walked in and said, all your guidance counselors lied to you. Architects don't make lots of money. And life lesson right there.
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, it all depends. We can get into that too, obviously. But were you good at math?
Yeah, I was really good at math.
Really? Do you ever want to go back? Have you ever? You've heard us complain about engineers over and over again, and there's some really good ones. But then I just think there's if you had more control over that portion of it, do you ever at all want to go like the Santiago Calatrava route and get your structural engineering degree and then license? Have you ever thought about that?
Absolutely not.
Really?
I mean, my math topped out at geometry, which I suppose is probably good for most structural engineering.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got into calculus, that was just way beyond my grasp. And I don't want to design beams. I have plenty of guys that I'm friends with that do an awesome job at that, and I don't want to take their work.
Totally fair. I still have what I want. I think I said last week, like, I was complaining that people were moving too slow and that we should, man, if I had the time, if I could just clone myself, I'd do structural engineering for sure.
Yeah, but then you just move slower.
Probably. Exactly, but I have the key is to clone myself, Nick.
Well, that'd be awesome too.
It would be awesome, yeah. So when you were at the University of Cincinnati, is a phenomenal architecture program. We always heard about it at NDSU, and so what was your experience like there? Like, did you come right out of school, and did you intern during school, or did you after school finally get that first job?
So my experience is really good. They when I toured there, they said, 26 on your ACT, that'll get you in. Mm-hmm. And then after I toured, they decided they had too many kids coming in and bumped it up to a 27. And I missed my chance to retake my ACT because I had a 26. I was like, I'm done. I don't have to take that test again. I'm in. I'm good. So I ended up having to go through what they called the pre-architecture school. And it's basically we take all the classes, same classes as the architecture students the first year, except studio. And to fill in for studio, we took art and design because apparently that's what you were weak on. If you didn't get into the architecture program, you didn't know the basics of design and art. And that wasn't at all the case. I was just lazy and just took my ACT once. And I ended up getting in at the end of the year, did all 3 studios over the summer, and then I was off and rolling. And then our sophomore year, we started co-oping. So we were on the quarter system, which they've changed from that now. But every other quarter, we'd go out and work at a firm. And for the 6 years I was there, I worked for 3 firms and 7 quarters over that time.
How much were you working? Like enough to where did it ever hurt your studies or anything?
Oh no, you'd work. You wouldn't go to school while you worked.
Okay.
So I worked in a small town outside of Cincinnati for my first co-op, and then I went down to Hilton Head, South Carolina, and worked for a pretty high-end residential firm. And then I went up to Columbus, Ohio, and did a little time at MBBJ.
Oh, nice. They're a large firm, right? I think they even have.
They were very large. Mm-hmm. Got my taste and feel of corporate architecture.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to ask next. Is what did you think of the difference between the 3, and did it help you make up your mind about the direction you sort of wanted to head in after you graduated?
It did. I knew I wanted to live in a small firm. The corporate thing, I mean, it was cool. You walk in and they have a big, impressive office in Columbus and models of all these projects all over the world. I worked on projects in Taiwan and Beijing and around the U.S., and it was cool. But I got sick of kind of being pigeonholed into doing one task over and over and over again on a big team of like 20 people. Mm-hmm. And it was also it wore on me seeing grown men just scream at each other daily just because the design architect didn't agree with the construction architect, who didn't agree with the interior architect, who didn't agree with this architect. And it's like, and it's really got me to the point where it influenced me now that at DIG, we don't really have titles. You're an architect, you're an intern. Mm-hmm. That's it for us.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's the same way here. I mean, in a way, I feel like we have to give them out. I feel like we're pushed to give titles than it's not even necessary, in my opinion. I would agree. I think it's like, but we don't do interns versus architects. We just say, I don't know, maybe entry level or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, I'm with you there. What about, did you get licensed under one of these firms, or did you?
No, I didn't get licensed until after I graduated. Mm-hmm. When I went back to Columbus because that's where my wife was, or my girlfriend, who became my fiance, who became my wife in Columbus, Ohio. And I worked for a small to mid-sized firm there for a while. And that's where I started the path to the licensure. And I actually started in Ohio, and then we made the move to Florida when I had 2 or 3 tests left. So I finished it down here.
Nice. How did you get into, you're going to be an owner? Because you had a former firm, right? You had a partner.
Yes.
How did that transition happen?
So I had interviewed with him when I came down. Well, my wife came down and got a job before I did, and she said, "Are we serious about this move?" And I said, "Why not?" So we put the house for sale, and I came down, interviewed with a bunch of firms here, and I met my former partner at one of my interviews, and then went and took a job at another firm, and that was like 2007, and I had gotten pretty good at doing hotels, and that's what they hired me to do, and then all that work just started drying up, and before I knew it, I was just knee-deep in military work, and I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. So my former partner and I had started talking about doing something, and in June of 2008, we started our little venture. Just perfect timing. Everything was booming. There was business to be had everywhere, and you're not smiling. I'm kind of kidding here. We kind of had a few projects, and they all dried up fast, and then we just learned how to survive and did what we could to stay alive from 2008 to 2009 to 2010 until we finally saw some form of recovery.
So you guys,
and we found out
from what?
Well, we found out we were better partners when times were bad than when times were good.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why? What do you think that? Unpeel that one.
I don't know. It's just, as we got busier, I think when we were a lot closer, when we were just doing what we could to, stay alive. And it was just fighting every day. And then as things got busier, the difference in our personalities, the difference in our expectations for projects, the difference in the projects we wanted to take on really started to show themselves. And that kind of started to drive the wedge. And then there were some other things that kind of really hammered that wedge right on through. But we stopped doing work together in 2015, and by 2017, I had bought him out of the company.
Oh, no kidding. And then that's when the name change happened, correct?
The name change happened in 15 because neither one of us were practicing together, so
yeah.
The company that I bought is kind of an idle company right now. It just kind of holds our, basically when I bought them out, I bought our condo.
Okay. That makes sense. What is the biggest lesson you learned from trying to find, working with a partner like that? Because a lot of times I feel like the partnerships come about sort of like people are friends in college, they go away, they come back, they start together, or it's two people that were working in a firm and they got along really well, and then they branched out and started their own firm. But yours kind of came in a different way. What, for anybody else that's listening and is considering partnering up with somebody, what is a lesson you learned from that first partnership that you would?
I would say the partnerships that start off in college or have some more commonality that is well known and established. That's a good idea. When you kind of jump into something, just knowing somebody but thinking that would be good, like I did, I don't know that that's the best idea in the world. It seems that the partnerships that I see that really are doing strong are like you and Al. I think maybe I'm just assuming you guys are strong. I don't know. Maybe there's some fighting in the background that we don't know about. But the partnerships that seem to last, usually aren't two people. It's usually three or plus, because two people, it's hard when you have a disagreement and you both own half the company. Like, where does it go? And either somebody's got to give or it just never gets resolved.
Yeah. That's a good point about the third leg. Maybe that's a better triangle, right? I was trying to build these strong triangles. You can't have triangle's the strongest shape.
Yes.
I kind of like that analogy.
I don't think a straight line is not a very good.
Not at all.
A good thing.
We do fight. You should know that. Yeah, everybody should know that. There's arguments, pretty heated ones, but it doesn't happen too often. I actually think it's a good pressure release, and then we always end up making up and saying we love each other and it's all good to go. what moving on, like when you started to dig, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned so far just on your own?
Oof.
I know, tough question.
That's a tough one. I mean, the biggest one, so when I went from having a partner to no one, I didn't hire anybody. I just kind of lived as a hermit in my studio or out in site for 2-3 years. And I really now I have staff, and I wish I would have made that leap and found that person that I could hire sooner, instead of just trying to do everything myself, because that was a really big burn on me. Just working constantly and doing everything I could to rebrand the company, to keep my name strong, to get all the work that was coming in done. We were building in 2015, so not only was I was basically running 2 companies by myself, and full-time job type companies. So it's not like I was a contractor for 20 hours a week and an architect for 20. I was a contractor for 40 hours a week and then an architect for 40 hours a week. And there was not much room for crossover. So it was challenging, and I think we'd be a little bit stronger in the design build side right now if I would have taken a jump and hired some people. But I was stubborn. I was burnt. At that time, I was still kind of feeling the effects of a partnership that went bad, and just wanted to do things the way I wanted them done, and didn't want anybody else around me.
Yeah. Well, hindsight's 20/20, right? So
yes, sir.
Yeah, and now that you are running 2 companies, I mean, still, right? Are you on your 3rd build, Nick?
So not technically, we're not technically the contractor. The project we're working on right now, we were hired back as basically project manager / supervision to finish one of the contractors we work a lot with finish the project we had designed. They had a lot of projects coming out at once, and I said, "Yeah, I'll come help you." Because I had finished my last construction project and didn't have anything in the wings, so might as well stay out on site. And this project that we're on right now is a pretty taxing project, so it was more than her project managers and superintendents could handle, because there was daily design decisions that need to be made. And so it just kind of made sense for me to go out there and be able to work with the tradesmen and craftsmen and make those decisions on the fly as needed.
Yeah. How do you maintain your balance on work and professional life now then? Personal. I mean, that's really what this question should have been. How do you maintain? You have 2 kids. You have a family. You're a good guy. How do you maintain that when you're running these 2 arms, basically?
So, we're a family firm at my studio. My kids come to my studio every day after school, so they're there adding their element of chaos with me pretty much every day of the week as it is. And then when we get home, the phone goes away until they go to bed. And then once they go to bed, it's game time again. Yeah. And working late into the night, getting up the next day. I don't work weekends. That's usually family time. Mm-hmm. It's rare that I'll go work. I'll go to a job site on a weekend or go. I mean, when I say I don't work weekends, I don't work weekends when my kids are awake. So I'll work Saturday and Sunday night, but the 7 till 8 that they're awake each day is pretty much focused on them and family, or trying to get stuff done around the house, or just tasks.
Yeah. How do your kids respond to being firm kids? My kids are the same way. They come to the job site. They complain about going to the job site. They come to the firm. They don't complain about the firm because we're not at a job site and they can color and stuff. How do your kids handle that?
My kids love going to the studio. When I redesigned and remodeled my studio, I had a room kind of in the back that, I thought if we grow, maybe someday that'll be my office. If I decide to, because we're pretty open. Right now, you come in and sit where you need to sit to do your task, and nobody has a desk or a spot. people end up going to the same spot over and over again. But if I walk in and somebody's working on the big computer, I just go to find a different chair and sit there and do my work. But when I redesigned it and made this office space, well, it's in the meantime, it'll be where my kids hang out. So they have bean bags and a toy bin and a snack cabinet and plugins for their iPads. So they just go in there and chill, usually.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Except when we have a meeting, then they decide they want to play tag and run about the studio.
Yeah.
As far as going to the job site, they generally are excited because we have buckets in the car, and they know they get $5 a bucket every time they fill it up with trash.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll go pick up buckets of stuff.
Oh, there you
for
go.
me.
I'm using that tactic from now on. Beautiful idea.
And they're happy. And then I don't have to pay somebody else to go pick it up.
Yeah, that's a great incentive. I'll have to do that. I thought you were going to say they're sand pail buckets because
No, we did that the first time. The first time I did that, they were smaller buckets, and they both took me for $60 each.
Oh my God!
And we have rules about the buckets now. You can't fill them up with like 3 pieces of concrete and call it a day. And B, they're Home Depot buckets.
That's fantastic. They're a little. They're little capitalists. Look at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my son. He's like, fine, I got to fill this bucket up. I see 3 big chunks of concrete. I'm done. Go dump this for me, Dad.
That's awesome. That's great. What are if you had to give 3 of your top books that any entrepreneur should read, what would those books be, Nick?
3 of my top. Hold on a second.
Yeah, you got to think. You just got to pull some off the shelf now, right?
I got to pull up my Audible because even if I read a book, I'll generally if I can download it on Audible, I will, and listen to it then too. Especially if the author reads it, that's awesome.
I think it's the best. Yeah, I honestly can't. People will send me books. I'm literally looking on right now, and I feel bad for it. Mike Acker sent me one that we had him on as the episode 0 of Monday Morning Coffee, and I just cannot sit still. The only time I've ever been able to read books late in my post-graduation life is on a plane because I have no choice.
So,
yeah,
it's hard to. I mean, there's just so much. You get 20 magazines a week, and you kind of want to stay current on different trends in the industry. So you got to flip through those. And then sitting down with a book, by the time I get to sit down, like when I'm on vacation, I'll read. But during the week, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
So, golly, the top 3. So I'll give you 3 fiction and 1 nonfiction.
Nice. Everybody.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I really liked. The E-Myth, but everybody reads the E-Myth, so that we'll throw that out. And How to Win Friends and Influence People, we'll throw that out because everybody should read that one too. Mm-hmm. So ones that you may not have read that I thought were good was, let's see, can I curse on this? Because there's a curse word in one of the titles.
You can curse.
Okay. So The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is an awesome book.
Who's that by?
Who's it by? Mark Manson.
Okay, that was a good one. All right.
That I thought was awesome, and it kind of, people say I took it to heart a lot because I used to be kind of a hothead, and I would yell at people at the snap of a finger, and I stopped doing that because it wasn't getting me anywhere, and I found that if I hold that, I still have that in my back pocket, and if I hold it, and when I do it, it means a lot. Stuff gets done if I yell.
Yeah.
So the other one is Dichotomy of Leadership by Cayko. I love that book. Mm-hmm. And then, I like the 10 times rule. That was a good one.
The 10X rule?
Yeah, the 10X rule.
Yep.
And then,
man, you've given us like 5 so far. We are spoiled.
Yeah, I know. I got so many. It seems I listen to a lot. One that was kind of off the wall was Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. That was kind of a different way.
Is that the fiction?
That was that. Well, no, that was a real story, but that was the one where I can't remember the movie that Leonardo DiCaprio played this guy. But it was actually him after he went to prison writing this book about how they built this company. It's pretty interesting. And then one of my favorite books that's not based on truth is The Fountainhead.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's long, but it's a good book.
It is a good book, yeah. It's a really interesting one. What a good... I mean, I don't know. I feel like every architect read that in college, but I just don't know if it ever panned out to politics in their lives when they came out of it, because you can see, the biggest thing is like our projects always get gummed up. I think that's like my most favorite thing that Alex has been saying lately is like the problem with the red tape when we go through the building departments and the planning departments is it gums up our process. So like for us, we honestly don't want to do another development because it takes way too long to get through it. And the risk is just too much with too much money involved with that. So I wish more people would take the Fountainhead to heart. And
I gather that. I mean, it seems like to me, you guys you skipped a step in the process that I would have taken to development. I think I would have built with somebody else's money before I built with my own.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's a critical point. Absolutely. Yeah, now
but I admire you guys for it. That was awesome that you took that leap.
Yeah, well, I'm just thankful that next Wednesday, it'll be March, what am I looking at, 4th, 2020, we will close on the last unit.
Outstanding. Congratulations.
Thank you. And we'll be done. It's just
for those listening at home, Lance just put his arms way up in the air like a touchdown.
Way up in the air. Yeah. Those
touch the ceiling.
Really, right? Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a fundamental thing for sure. I think the way you're doing it incrementally is the way to do it. So knowing that, like you want to continue being a builder architect, right?
Yeah, we've this last project that we did by ourselves kind of changed the way that we do things, because I don't know if this happens in Colorado as much as it does in Northeast Florida, but every one of our residential clients has a friend, an aunt, mom's sister or mom's sister's friend that's an interior designer, which really equates to they watch HGTV. And they're going to do the interior design for this house that's a $1 million plus house, and it doesn't work, which ends up, and I get frustrated, and it ends up happening that we see ourselves doing a lot of what an interior designer should be doing, and it's not right that, I mean, we're so invested into the project that like we want it to turn out well, and we just see this big gap and we fill it, but we don't charge for it. And so we stop doing that completely. So now we have, when clients come in to interview with us, I have like a sheet of 9 categories that we will do, or 8 categories. And we're fine just playing the role of architect. We're fine being the interior architect, the architect, helping with procurement, building it, budgeting, and all that stuff. But if you don't want to do it, you cross it off that list, and we have that to go back for if something changes, or if you're like wondering why something's not getting done the way you think it is. Well, it's because you crossed off the interior component and you said you're going to do that yourself, or you crossed off the hardscape component and you said you're going to do that yourself. We're just not doing it, and we're leaving that out on Front Street. And actually, it led to our highest commission project right now, because we had a client come in and he said, yeah, I want you to do it all. I don't want to have to do anything. So now we're doing the architecture, the interiors, the hardscape, procurement, staging, and we're part of the build team, part of the budgeting team. And I hope it works out well.
I hope it does too. Yeah, the current build that we're doing right now, every everything but tile were the interior designers. Everything but tile and cabinets. But other than that, I actually have went down to the trim, down to the doors, down to the hardware, and I kind of don't mind it. I know Alex and I have complained about that before, but I'm like, when you're in the builder's seat, it's much different because the equation is different, right? Is because I want my build team to know exactly what we're putting in, where we're putting stuff in. So it kind of is empowering, and we've just basically been on an hourly basis as architects at the same time having the build contract.
Yeah, and I think if you are in the builder's seat and when you put the builder hat on and you're having to pick out that stuff, it's too late. You're losing money and time.
Yeah.
So it really needs to be picked out before you go to permit.
Yeah,
or selected.
I would agree. Yeah.
Selected is the right term, not picked out. God, I sound a little country on that one.
Yeah. Sound a little country. Well, Alex is actually going to, he and Jason have their own little build. It's a little modest, I think 1,800 square foot house. So I think I'm going to pass that information on to him that they should be, if they are going to be the builders and they haven't submitted for permit yet, or at least when it's in for permit, having the client start selecting that stuff is not a bad idea at all. What's your ultimate goal as a builder architect? Is it to get those kind of commissions that you just described? Where you're
I mean, we want it from the point when we hear the story of what they want their home to be, to the point where we open the door and say, welcome home, and we're doing everything in between. And it's not to sound greedy, but I just think based on history, our projects that have us, we haven't fully done that role, but have us and had that pseudo role, are some of our most successful homes. Just because, and I'll use this for example, we have a project right now. It's not an easy remodel. It's a complex remodel. But we're the architect. There's a landscape architect. There's a interior designer. The client's not local, so he's got 2 local reps. There's a contractor, a superintendent, a project manager, all with the contractor. The interior designer has 3 staff on it. The amount of emails that come through my box daily on that project is just overwhelming. And you have the grade was off, so we had to raise the garage up a little higher. And I said, well, why you guys call me? Call the landscaper. It's their job to figure out the topo to make sure this works and we're not draining onto the neighbor. And then they send us, we get a sketch from the interior designer with windows, moving windows around. I said, that doesn't work. They're not looking at the elevation to see that these windows are actually above the roof line, and the way they're built up, what they're doing does not work. So, it's just hard for everybody, for so many team members to fully grasp the project. And I'm not saying a builder can't go through and do it all. I just think it's better when you have one lead throughout the whole project that gets it and controls it.
It's just too many cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yes.
Doesn't it just come down to that?
Way too many.
How early in the process do you try to, or think about this in the future then? Because we're struggling with this too, and I mention it to people that if there, so our rule is, okay, well, you got to be within a 30-minute radius. I have a family, and I'm not killing myself for your building to be your builder as well. How early in the process, once you have somebody locked in as an architect, are you trying to be their builder as well? Like, do you ever want to feel them out as an architect first to see if you really want to work with them further?
Yeah, we generally have like an hour consult with clients before we'll throw any, get into it too much with our full service spectrum. I mean, if it's going well and we either know the client or just feel comfortable with them because we're connecting, we'll bring some of that early on that first meeting. But usually that won't come out to the second meeting.
Okay. But
and we've kind of done... Yeah, we want it early because it just changes our approach.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I need to take that leap. You have bigger cojones than me in regards to that, so I applaud you for that one.
Well, I mean, you guys and us are at an advantage. It's great if we build, but we don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Both our businesses are based in architecture, which is nice. It's nice to have that fallback, and it's nice when at least we're building that we don't have, we haven't built with someone that's paid cash yet. All our projects have been bank loans.
Mm-hmm.
And while during construction, you take the draws and you allocate certain monies to certain places. But the monies we've allocated to the company, we've kept in the bank and not distributed to anybody. And they're not used as payroll. They're not really used as anything but overflow in case the bank doesn't show up on time to do an inspection, or they don't give you as much money as you think they're going to. And you have your subs with their hands out Friday looking to get paid.
Yep.
We always want to pay our subs before we pay ourselves because, I mean, they're the lifeblood of what we do, and efficiently getting them to, I mean, it's a lot easier to get a sub to show up that you pay than one that pay.
I gotta wonder if that's an advantage that a builder's architect would have. What you're just describing, because we're doing the same thing.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think
it is.
I don't know if anybody's ever talked about it before that I've heard who does this route.
I think it's an incredible advantage because, I mean, yeah, we're design build companies, but the bulk of our work is architecture. Still, we haven't made the leap to 100% design build. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in 4 years, we've built 2 homes. Mm-hmm. I'd be out of business if I was relying on those 2 projects to put food on the table.
Do you have a goal in mind? What is your ideal year? Would you do 1, 2? There is no number because it all depends on the client coming through.
I mean, God, it really. I mean, the scale of our projects varies so greatly from 3,500 square feet inland to, I think our biggest is like a 12,000 square foot estate on the ocean. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as we would get an estate project like that, that's a 4-year project.
Totally.
And that's a big commitment. That's, at that end, the clients are expecting on-site supervision daily, full-time. And so we just gotta kind of gauge what's coming in and our role to really see if it's 1 or 2 projects. I mean, ideally it's 1. I think at the max it's 2 to 3. Mm-hmm. But at 2 to 3, our staff is a lot more than it is today.
Totally. Yeah, that's a lot of work. It's so much work building. It's really rewarding for sure, but man, is it a lot of work.
That's great.
Hey, we're nearing about looks like 30 minutes here. On the
clock.
No. Yeah. So
time flies. Time flies.
It does. So why don't you wrap us up with I like to ask everybody this question. Knowing what you know now, and if you could go back in time when you first started your business, this latest one, Dig, what advice would you give yourself?
I think I touched on it earlier. I would probably have jumped on to hiring somebody quicker so I could spend more time getting new business, getting that second build, because there was a 2-year gap between builds for us. Mm-hmm. And it just, I committed to that client that I was only going to build their house and take on nothing else till I was done. And I had all these leads on builds until I finished that house, and I had nothing. But then the economy started booming and business started picking up on the architecture side, and I had my share of work as just the architect. And to the point where it's like, am I ever really going to build again? Mm. And then another opportunity fell in my lap, and now we have the ability to be a little more proactive in trying to get more. because I have people that support me at the studio.
Yeah. What would you tell somebody else who's apprehensive about hiring their first person? Because I see this all the time in Mark's group in the Entre Architect community. You've heard the statistic too. There's 50% of architects are sole proprietors, and then everybody's really, really afraid. We were too about hiring somebody, and then after you do it once, it's just like you actually want to do it as much as you can because you make more money, and then you're empowering more people. What would you tell somebody who's on the fence, sole proprietor, and they know they need to hire somebody?
They know they need. I mean, the problem is right now there's not a lot of people to hire.
Yes.
Because I would hire another qualified person, right? I mean, we had one that was going to come to us from Savannah, but they decided to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have hired him in a heartbeat. Didn't 100% know if I'd have the backlog to keep him on board, but he was such a strong candidate that he's one of those people that I get every few years that I got to find a way to hire this person.
Yeah.
And you got to take a leap. It's a hard take, especially the longer you've been solo. I think it's harder to bring somebody in. The sooner you can do it, the better.
Yeah.
And then just sit back and watch the money roll in.
back to the original point about making all that money as an architect, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, I think
that's the way you do it. You have a bunch of people working for you.
It doesn't hurt. I can tell you our bottom line was the most money we've ever made in 1 year, and we actually should probably submit to this award thing. We should win it, but it does help. It does help a lot. I think one of the other rewarding things is watching your people grow 100% and seeing them get more confident. And then now we have people in place that have been here long enough that they're training people. So seeing that whole cascade of events happen has been pretty awesome. So,
and they're not just trained, but they're trained in F9's way of doing it.
Yeah, which is maybe the right way. I don't know. RevitRocketShip.com.
So it works for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Revit Rocket Ship, right?
Revit Rocket Ship. Make it happen. You know what? That'd be my piece of advice to people is like, when you hire somebody, have a plan. Like, I know that sounds, like in hindsight, it just sounds so simple. Like, why would you even overlook that? But man, you gotta have a plan, right? When you hire people, do you train them right away?
So we actually do use our Rocket Ship to train them.
Okay.
Since our studio is open, most of the studio watches it together,
mm-hmm.
and there is a lot of similarity between how you guys develop your models and how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the points where we know we're so much more proficient and dominant over F9, we tell them not to do it that way.
Yeah.
Do it this way because it makes more sense. And it's pseudo unfair because we've already stolen all the stuff that we like that you guys do, and it's in our daily practice.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few things that we do differently than you guys do.
Good,
but it's pretty close. It's a close enough parallel that we can use it and pretty quickly get all our people up and going and building models like we do.
Yeah, I was trying to convince these. There's two gals that we work with. They're so awesome, Missy Brown and Kelsey Nichols, and they're two separate entities. And I'm like, will you just take a weekend and learn Revit Rocket Ship? I'll give you it for free. And they're like, well, I just can't find the time. And I'm like, man, if we did that with all of our employees, where we're like, we can't find the time to train them, it'd be a train wreck.
First 2 days. That's what you do. Your first 2 to 3 days at my studio.
Good man, Nick. Well, sir, it has been a pleasure to talk with you again.
Always.
Are you going to be in What's that?
Always.
Yeah. Are you going to be in LA for the AA?
I don't think I'll be going to LA this year. The timing is really bad for our schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids are getting done with school right around then. And it's just, if it was in June, I probably would.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think June in LA is all that great either.
Well, then we got to catch up at the International Builder Show, right? That's in your...
Definitely, we'll be there. We'll be there in the next 2 years because it's back in Orlando. Cool. So it's just a hop, skip, and a jump down the road for all of us. And it's as Al probably told you, it's pretty impressive.
It sounds like it, yeah. I like the economic stuff that they did, where they did the outlook. The little breakdown that Al and Jason did, that was fantastic. So we'll see if it holds through. You know, if we all don't get coronavirus.
Corona's coming to get us.
Coming to get us.
It's. I mean, it is just going to ravage this country.
You know, it's hilarious. Right before I came to the studio today to record this with you, I walk into my daughter's room and she's laying in bed. It's like 1 p.m. on a Sunday, and she's looking at her phone. She looks all scared, and I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you looking at?" And she's watching the news about coronavirus. This is a 10-year-old sweet little girl, and I'm like, "Don't worry, you're gonna be fine." So,
see, I don't remember such an outcry for any of these other health scares we've had. I mean, this one's just crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, they're really whipping it up, aren't they?
It's just the flu.
It's just that's what I told her. I was like, it's just the flu. Make sure you get your exercise and wash your hands. That's all you can do.
Yes.
So, any parting words of wisdom as you wrap this up, Nick?
No, I don't have it. It's Sunday, man. Enjoy your Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, sir. Well, thank you very much for being on. Appreciate your time.
Talk to you later, Lance.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on the iTunes app. Tip your barista, and we'll see you next week for more Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm.